first of all, I'd just like to welcome our panel here. We have Dave Helmley from Adobe, Ray Barchener from Adobe, David Mudd from Designery, and Stephen Najelski from LucidLink. I'm really excited about this talk because when you look at this panel up here, the combined knowledge experience is really exceptional here, and I think we're gonna learn a lot of great things. So right now we're obviously working in a world where there's remote workflows, we have new technologies popping up all the time, and so people who are in charge of determining what those workflows are and really running those operations are constantly trying out new things and trying to look slightly ahead into the future to solve problems before they even land with us. So, Dave, I'm going to start with you. You see every type of video workflow there is out there, broadcast, feature, short form, long form, agencies. We're talking about agencies specifically today. What are the biggest problems and challenges that agencies are going through as they look at their workflows?
Yeah, I think the workflow that these guys have is a little different, but it's no less pressure. And you have the challenges of, again, the technology. So a lot of the tools that get you connected to the cloud, they do require you to learn a new vernacular. You have to explain it to people about how this tool works or another tool. And if it just works like a standard Macintosh hard drive or a Windows hard drive, there's just less to deal with. Hide the tech, let me get creative. I want to drag and drop things in and out of the LucidLink file space. And they're like, what's that? It's just a drive. That's what keeps the creators engaged. And I will say that, when I talk to a lot of these guys that we've recommended this product to, they're just like, I kind of forget that it's there. And you kind of know you've hit the mark if they've are just into their work. So for me, that's what kind of sets this apart for me. So
that's great. And Raybar, you're an expert on Adobe's Frame.io. We work a lot with you. It seems to be this, it's a great marriage of technologies to really accelerate things. Can you give a little overview for anyone who doesn't know about Frame.io and just sort of talk about how it fits into these workflows as well?
Yeah, absolutely, and so good to be here with everybody. Frame.io, for those who don't know, it's a central hub for your content. You're getting everybody together, connected in one central space where you can get feedback, time encoding, just kind of getting everybody on the same page on an asset. And then with the partnership with Lucid, it really makes it easy for us to kind of just, camera to cloud, right into Frame, into Lucid. Everybody's working on the content. We get it back up. Whether it's a still project, it's a video project, you can get all of it done in one space without having to use multiple different tools and just kind of focusing on the important thing, which is content creation. How are we doing it? How fast are we doing it? And when do we get when are we going to delivery? So everything is in an open platform, just trying to get, point A to point B, but without the complications of I have to know command line. A lot of people don't want to do that.
Great. And Stephen, if you can do a similar, just quick overview for anyone who doesn't know about LucidLink, what the product is, and how it fits into these workflows as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So LucidLink essentially takes cloud object storage and makes it look and act like a local SSD to your users. And that already is really cool, but then you think about the fact that everybody on your team, regardless of their location, can access that same SSD. So now it becomes a single source of truth where you can collaborate in real time. And a good way to think about it is if you want to work with somebody else in another location, you no longer have to send them anything. You just grant access. Because we say the projects are already everywhere. You just grant access, they're immediately working right now. And so it takes away a lot of the wasted time and drudgery.
Great. And so, David, just sort of bringing it all together, how does Designery sort of function with all these technologies coming together? How do you make them work in that cohesive way?
Sure, yeah. Hello, everyone. So we will receive a hard drive, we upload it straight to Lucid, and then we parse that information to our team. So it'll go, and our team is across the world. We've got localization that goes from London, Japan, Mexico, and we'll take that information, upload it to the cloud, parse it out, give someone the permission, hand it off to them. They can get working. In the middle of a project, if something goes wrong or they've got an emergency or they have to leave, they're working on the cloud. They can just leave the project. It's up there. Someone else can pick it up. If the sun sets in one location, the sun rises in another, they can pick up that file and just keep working. And so like that workflow goes from, currently it goes from our hard drives up into the cloud, up into Lucid, and then we'll do our reviews with Frame.io, and occasionally file delivery with Frame.io, because you can upload full files, full folder structures, and all of that, and you can actually send that out. Another good tool with Frame.io is the review system with versioning. You can have version 1 and you can compare it to version 2 and all these things so you can actually see. And not only that, but it actually connects with the Adobe software directly, so you can get live comments and you can kind of see what's going on live with the project. And our backbone being Lucid is just amazing.
Yeah. And I just wanted to point out that you just said something that was pretty amazing, which is follow the sun editing, follow the sun designing. So depending on what time you wake up in the morning, that's when you just grab your work from the file. So again, we were just talking about a connected world, right? So you said something pretty amazing, which is you're following the sun by the way that you work. So you've got people all over the planet that have to do the work that they need to do. There's one single file space, right, that they may log into. That's a whole new way to create. We've never really had that before. And it's a way to bring a lot of the worldwide community, and it allows you guys to find more talent. So that when Raybar and I were certainly early on with LucidLink and looking at how do we collaborate, how do we bring Frame.io and the Adobe products into this, that's what got us. It's like you have this whole worldwide talent pool. So I just thought I'd point that out because that's a pretty powerful statement. You're chasing the sun when you edit or when you create. So.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point, and one of the things that we look at is there are some existing workflows that we're looking to improve, but there's also new workflows that were never before possible. David, if we can start with you, what are some of the key benefits that you've seen of working in this new remote way?
Yeah, so a lot of the benefits come with you can work, pass off information, pass off files. You can immediately, closer. So one of the big things for me is we work on Mac and Windows. So that was like mind-blowing the first time that I jumped on a Windows machine, opened up the folder, opened up the files, and it was like nothing. Like it was just there, it worked, and it was amazing. So like I'm working with a team that has all different computers, all different years, all different models, all different everything, and it's just a folder on your computer. You can open, you can save and render directly to it, and then those files can be picked up immediately. Like as they're rendering, they're uploading. So by the time the render's done, it's pretty much already uploaded, and your producer is already seeing that, and they can pick that file and immediately run with it, upload it to Frame, and then it's just this seamless loop that you don't even notice it's happening, because by the time it's being uploaded to the cloud, it's already done, or by the time you're rendering, and we actually use render farms that will render directly to Lucid.
Yep.
And by the time everything's done rendering on the farm, it's already on Lucid, and the team across the globe already has those EXR sequences, and they can run and make their comps like just immediately. It's honestly, it's mind-blowing.
See, and I think you bring up another good point, Dave, as he was just describing that. He was kind of describing his happy place, right? Like you just got to that folder, you felt right at home, it came from a Mac user, you're on Windows. By the way, they support Linux too, for the people that need to know that. That amazed me, that everybody in this worldwide creativity can participate. Yep. But you just felt immediately comfortable with it, right? That's what I was talking about. It hides the tech, which is sort of what attracted me to this, where I don't have to explain to someone all the bits that are going on. So yeah, I just thought that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because like usually it would be like, okay, I got this hard drive. Oh, it only works on Mac. Okay, I can't. What do? I'm going to upload it to like Google Drive or something, and then I'm going to download it to the Windows, and it's just so many more steps. Where now you just upload it to your Lucid project, and it works on any machine that you can sign into that domain and that workspace, and you're off and running.
Yeah, and I used to always say, an edit is never done early. You just get as much done before the deadline as you can. And I know you have lots of projects always in motion, high volume of turning things out. But when you are saving time, it's really a matter of how you reallocate that time for other things. Raybar, how have you seen sort of quality of content affected by being able to truncate these timelines?
That's definitely, there's the, what Frame has been able to do is, especially with Lucid, is the fact that you can iterate across the globe, right? You upload a version, you're able to comment on that version of the video. The editors are in their tool of choice, the project managers are in their tool of choice, and they're seeing these comments flow back and forth. We're able to resolve problems faster. And once we do that, we iterate, we version stack, we approve, we then send out review links internally, externally. We're getting everybody involved. And when you get everybody involved, the voice gets louder and louder on what's good and what's not good. So we're able to solve that problem and, deliver from glass to glass, as Dave likes to say, faster, with quality and performance being like the top of mind for a lot of our users. So.
And Stephen, what have you seen as far as bringing teams together? We touched on just sort of the global talent sourcing of that much larger pool, but how has the collaboration really come together from what you've seen?
Yeah, I think the iteration is a huge piece of that. The fact that you take an overall production cycle, it's X amount of time, and a lot of that, if you look at it from a high level, is a bunch of waiting. It's a bunch of just like wasted time. And if you start just subtracting all that wasted time, now like you said, you can iterate, you can get more people involved, and you are just able to raise the quality, but also improve the experience. The worst thing when you're an editor, and I used to be an editor, you do all this work, you get to this point, you're really proud of something, you send it off, and you're just like waiting to hear back. Is this good? Is this the one? Am I done? And you're waiting, and it's kind of painful, but if you can take away all that weight and you're getting feedback from someone really time. No, you just need to change that one graphic. Okay, cool. And you get that, and you're just getting through all your work. It feels so much more satisfying. And I don't know, I know, Dave, you and I have talked about this before. It's like you just, it feels like a better quality of life when you're able to take away all that pain and suffering of the waiting.
Absolutely.
I mean, what I hear you saying, you've got a rhythm. And creators, and you guys certainly know this, you just get into that rhythm, and when something stops the rhythm, it's just, you've lost it, right? And how much time do you have to go back in to try to get your jam back on and just go? Because what we're not hearing is anything that's in the back. Everything everybody's talking about, even Raybar, it's all foreground. When I can sit up here and sort of convince you to take a look at this, then I get a lot more time to tell you all the cool things we're doing at Adobe and Frame. So there's a lot of cool things going on. That's the way I look at it. There's just no tech. So get your rhythm back.
And David, I'm curious, have you seen any response or change from how the client interactions happen when you start adopting these new types of ways of working? It may be something really obvious, or it could be something subtle.
So there's probably good and bad to that. The good being they love Frame. They love Frame. They love the annotations. They love the comments and how easy it is to just get your comments on there and you can circle something and okay, they want to change that. And I know exactly, it's not just like some Excel sheet or whatever that has the time code and you're like, wait, what are they talking? Are they talking about this? Or are they talking about that? Like, I can't tell. So like Frame eliminates that altogether. And I guess like the bad side would be, now that we're chasing the sun, we're always on. So like that's like something you have to keep up with now. So we've kind of raised the bar in that we've raised the bar in that sense. So yeah. There's more work, more work, only more. But kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier is the collaboration has increased because we're no longer waiting constantly because it could be a day, or if you get obviously you have to upload to the cloud, so like that's always a thing. But we're no longer waiting, especially when we're dealing with, sending files out to Mexico. We don't send files to Mexico. They have the files already. They're on the file space. We're all working directly on it. We can work so seamlessly that, internally collaborating before we send a client, I can be like, hey, if you want me to check that out, upload it to Frame. I'll give my little notes and then send it right back to you. And so we can do a lot of like intermittent collaboration really fast, really quick, without ever having to, send files to each other, because it's just that readily available, and just like it's just there.
And do you ever have to send people on location places, and how has that been affected by?
So personally, no, but we do have, a full production team, and so we're still doing the hard drives, getting them, uploading them. So like that's happening with the producers and all that. We're uploading the files. So that's something, in the future we do want camera to cloud. That's like one of our next steps, because that would eliminate that altogether. And then that adds another layer of, that shot's ready. Let's get a string out going. Let's see if we can add some VFX and see if this is going to work. Or let's color correct this and see like, okay, is this going to work, or do we have like, all the color information that we need on this shot? So that's kind of the future of what eventually we want, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, and so from sort of an operations standpoint, sometimes you can see very clearly what these workflows should look like, what you're trying to accomplish, but then you also have to sell it to the creatives. And speaking as a former creative, I know how hard that can be to convince people. Dave, can you talk a little bit about sort of the adoption of these new ways of working that you've seen?
I just want to start out and just say, we're talking about storage. I mean, when has anybody ever gotten excited about storage, right? Everybody's laughing. I mean, we got one guy, he's excited. But it's just like, it really is a new paradigm, right? And it fits super well in what we're accomplishing at Adobe with Frame.io. Like, it's trust in the cloud. Like, I do get a lot back into this, 2 or 3 years ago, Frame was ahead of the curve in this cloud-connected, sort of workflow. But now we can trust it. And nowhere in this panel have we talked about sync and share. You guys are used to like, I got to get this over here and I got to upload it, then I got to wait, and it's just, you just get it now. So from that standpoint, that is a huge change for me, Dave. But the workloads have just changed. Things are exciting. I wouldn't want to be in the sort of solid storage business these days without something being connected to the cloud. So I just think that that's changed. FedEx, drives, sending them back and forth, just security-wise, all of that. We have lots of big customers that count on Adobe and Frame to have that security layer, forensic watermarking now that we have in that. So I just want you to think about that. And even Raybar, when you were talking about Frame.io, a lot of people think Frame.io is just video when we're thinking this. I look at it as a frame in time, because now it supports stills and it supports other types of things, PDFs and other workflows. So when you're looking at this, you're already saying it too, you got your time back. Unfortunately, they took it away, because now you got more to do. So that's just some of the changes, Dave, that I see that are happening out there, for good or,
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of you, Dave. I think security is a big one, right? So a lot of us, trust is a big thing for everyone. And as a service provider, we provide you a SaaS platform. We want to make sure that your content is safe with us. So there's a lot being done on that front. Again, we just released Forensic on the Frame.io side, but with Lucid and Frame has always been TPN, which is the Trusted Partner Network. It's with all the studios, all the biggest content creators. We've always been part of that. But now I think Lucid and Frame, we're both, and Adobe, we're all part of the TPN membership. So we're early adopters in TPN that's focusing on the cloud. Yeah, and exactly. So again, for those who don't know, it's like really just a great place to go, a platform to go and see that, hey, look, these people are taking security seriously. And if Paramount, Warner Brothers, whoever, they're using our platform for their content, it says a little something about our security practices and posture. So I think that's also a great thing to kind of bring up when it comes to the users, where you're having to go out there. As an editor, I always had to go in and sell these to my creative director, whoever, and they're like, well, security, cloud, no. No, that's not the case. It's like, we're doing, here are my 10 bullet points for you to tell you this is safer than you think, because Joe Schmo can walk over into that closet and grab that LaCie drive and run away.
The time is now to trust the cloud.
Yeah, Dave, say that, please, out loud.
So the time is now to trust the cloud. Like, that is the change at this year's show. So I don't know if you guys are seeing it as well, but
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of trust that we put in the cloud is insane, because coming from like Google Drive and all those things, and I'm the person that was like hired to break things, right? Like, try and break something, right? So I've broken After Effects. That one wasn't that hard to break. No, just kidding. Dealing with stills, though, you're given a 20K by 20K file, it breaks After Effects, and so we had to like parse it into. Anyway, then it was like, okay, now we have Google Drive, and I'm working in CG and rendering and uploading to Google Drive, and we hit the file number limit, which we didn't even know was a thing. Didn't even know, and all of a sudden that was like, okay, we need to rethink everything, and then we get on Lucid, the security was there, we're, like I said earlier, we're literally rendering multiple, like 4 scenes, 12 scenes, 50 scenes at a time, straight from our farm to Lucid, and we haven't hit that file limit, and it just...
There isn't one.
it just keeps going. I don't know, we're at like 280 terabytes or something now.
Yeah. And so what I saw also was pre-pandemic, people were a little more hesitant to go into the cloud because there wasn't as much of a need, right? And when the pandemic came along and everyone was sent home, in order to maintain business continuity, the first thing that was sacrificed was security. And we needed the cloud in order to keep moving. And so it became this, I'll say it nicely, as a conversation between the InfoSec side and the production side, operations. And so now that we're a little further in and we're seeing that cloud is part of the workflow and it's really not going anywhere, we've had to adapt to what the new security policies are and really formulate new ones. So I appreciate you all sort of talking about where we are with that and what our attitudes are as far as security, because there was a brief time when it just wasn't a priority in that scheme.
I mean, just to even riff off of that, it's like when you're talking about exporting directly to LucidLink, when you're copying a movie up to LucidLink, let's just say that it's an hour, and I'm 10 minutes into it. Depending on the codec, because a lot of them are supported, you can actually play that on the other end while it's uploading. So that's amazing that if you just have to get through that material, and it's going to take an hour to upload because it's huge and who knows what's going on with your bandwidth, that's a comfort that you just understand. Yep. That it's like, okay, I know that we can do this. Again, trying to get some of your time back, and hopefully someone doesn't take it. But yeah, it's a whole new way to work, and that would have never have happened if it wasn't for a pandemic. So if one good thing had to happen out of the pandemic, it was like we got trust in the cloud, and I just keep going back to that because that is what's changed. So you can start thinking about workflows differently. So.
Yeah, and I think it's also hard for freelancers who get to work this way and then their next job is the old way of working, and you sort of get reminded of what that felt like. I'd love to sort of talk in the last few minutes sort of about trends and where you see the industry going and how they're adopting this technology. Stephen, what areas do you see that still have yet to be addressed, or that you're seeing these current technologies will possibly evolve into?
Well, when I really look at the future, of production in our production community, I start with the future of content consumption, and you look at how much it's ramping up. There's a demand globally, and it's not just geographical diversity. We're talking about different kinds of interests. We want equitable representation. We want content. There's a massive demand for it, and you're not going to meet that demand, by generating content from a few select hubs in the world. We're going to need a global workforce of people in our field, and the only way to do that, the only way to meet that demand, is to have the tools ready to be able to work from anywhere. And so I'm really excited by the fact that these tools now exist, and that's what we've been talking about, throughout this panel.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, I mean, for the future and infinity and beyond, because it's like we're already. You know that quote. For the future, for us, it kind of feels like we're already there. Honestly, like it was something that before Lucid, it was so slow, and the process just felt clunky, and you wanted it to work better. And the second we started implementing Lucid, everything changed. And not only that, but it was something that we haven't really touched on. But before Lucid, getting permissions to get on the server, if you were in the office, you have to go through all of these things. You have to load the VPN. The VPN's going to be slow, and everything's going to be a certain way. And you have like a 4-sheet on how to get access to the server remotely. And now, you've got your two-factor authentication. We've got the domain that's just for you. You log in with your email, and that's it. Like, I just told you all the steps. Like, that is it. It's not a 4-page document. So, like, for us, that was huge. And that was, like, what we wanted. That's what we needed, especially working remotely, having freelance come on board, having people all across the world. You need it to be simple but secure. And for us, that was the future. So now it's pushing the camera to cloud. It's pushing being able to honestly no longer work linearly, but all together at the same time, which is what this is going to allow.
Right, nonlinear collaboration is how we often put it. Raybar.
Totally agree with both of these gents here, but I always like to say the only constant in technology is change. So as Frame and Adobe, like our mission is going to be innovation, proactiveness in all fields, security, getting designery on camera to cloud and walking them through it and making sure that it's repeatable, it's secure, it's to the map. But around the world, we're going to have, there's going to be no excuses for people to be like, hey, I can't do this. I think the future of it is going to be, what tools are you using, what tools can you trust, and how are you able to deliver the ROI on those tools? So I think it's going to be a free-for-all, but those who do it well will keep innovating and keep joining the party. But those who want to stay behind, I think there's still going to be room for that too. And I want to be realistic. But the movie labs, vision is really coming. We're seeing it today. Like a lot of the stuff, like camera to cloud, TPN, all of these security things, everything, we're hitting on it. But also, I think it's on all of us, the creatives and the producers, the people who are behind the scenes, to keep pushing forward, because at the end of the day, who doesn't want to work from a lake? Who doesn't want to be relaxed? Emotional support for you when I'm really frustrated on this edit. I want to go walk in the wood or, go for a swim in the lake. I don't know. That's where I see it.
And Dave, what does the future look like to
Yeah,
you?
I mean, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, again, I go back to trust the cloud. You got to be able to render where the media is. So cloud compute, I think, is going to be a big thing. So if the media is sitting, up in the cloud in high res, there's no proxies. Maybe you were using proxies. You don't have to use proxies, of course, with LucidLink. You can edit native red files. I do it all the time. But I want to be able to render and have that compute sitting next to that media. And I think that that's going to be a big part of the future. And there's a lot of things we're working on internally to sort of make that happen. And we haven't even talked about generative AI and how we're going to have to collaborate on that. And then just the last thing, I just think with kind of what these guys were saying too, all this talent where it is, a designer in Brazil has got a different view of the world than maybe someone in Africa or someone in Norway. Just the range of designers and the way they look at life is a little different. So just the variety that we'll see in just content, I think that's going to be part of the future as well, a much more connected world. So.
Yeah. I also just think that it's upon us to be listening to the creatives as well, because these innovations cannot exist in a vacuum, and we just sort of need to see what the true needs are. So I encourage everyone here to, seek us out and talk to us about what your pain points are and what would make life more enjoyable. How can we, support your work-life balance through technology? But I know we're at time. I could talk to you all for hours longer, but thank you, Dave, Raybar, David, Stephen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.